Hello, welcome to the Live to 110 podcast. My name is Wendy Myers, and you can find me on live to110.com. Today, I'm really excited. We're going to be having Dr. Edward Group of globalhealingcenter.com on the podcast today. I love his website. I've been an admirer of his for a long time, and he's from Texas also, like everyone from Texas. And he is going to be talking today about parasites. A lot of people have parasites. Many of my clients do. And I think it's a very important subject to address because they can drain your adrenals. They can promote adrenal fatigue, and they can cause night waking, and they can cause a lot of symptoms. And it's something that a lot of doctors will miss. Many general practitioners aren't really looking for parasites or thinking of that as a cause of health symptoms. So we're going to be addressing that today on the podcast. The Live to 110 podcast is solely informational in nature. Please consult your healthcare practitioner before engaging in any treatment that we suggest today on the show. The Live to 110 podcast is for entertainment purposes only. I'm really excited for the launch of Body Bio Rehab. That's my new online health program. And you can find that at bodybiorehab.com. That should be launching on May 1st, 2015. And it's going to be addressing all of the basic health concepts that people need to address in order to be healthy. It will be addressing diet. There'll be a 30-day meal plan for you to follow and recipes in my upcoming Modern Paleo cookbook. There's going to be a supplement plan you can follow, just basic supplements that everyone should be taking every day. We're going to be addressing stress issues. A lot of people have to have some tools in order to defeat stress and to manage stress, reduce it. So I'm going to give you lots of tips and tricks about stress reduction. Exercise is a big one. A lot of my clients always wonder what type of exercise they should be doing and how much. So you're going to be getting a lot of tips about that as well. And we're also going to be talking about sleep, how to improving your sleep hygiene, and so many more things. There's going to be lots of content, including videos and really hilarious videos of me exercising and lots of good stuff for you guys. And it's really affordable. It's only going to be $49. I wanted this to make this really accessible to the most people, and just lots of great content for a lot of bang for your buck. So go check that out at bodybiorehab.com. Today our guest is Dr. Edward Group. Edward F. Group III founded Global Healing Center in 1998 and currently serves as Chief Executive Officer. He has studied natural healing methods for over 20 years, and under his leadership, Global Healing Center has earned recognition as one of the largest alternative, natural, and organic health resources in the world. At the forefront of research and development team, Dr. Group assumes a hands-on approach to producing new and advanced degenerative disease products and information. Dr. Group centers his philosophy around the understanding that the root cause of disease stems from the accumulation of toxins in the body and is exacerbated by daily exposure to a toxic living environment. He has made it his personal mission to teach and to promote philosophies that produce good health, a clean environment, and positive thinking. Well, Dr. Group, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you so much for having me. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, and I love your website, Global Healing Center. I reference it a lot myself because there's really not a lot of sites on the internet that talk about some of the lesser known metals like strontium and barium and others.
Right. I mean, it's really about education. Exactly what you're doing is getting the information out so people can do their own research, or they can, have good areas or good links or somewhere they can go to find out about the things that are causing them to be ill, basically.
Yeah, I thank you for doing that because you have a wonderful website. I love your website. So why don't you tell people a little bit more about yourself and how you got started in the health field?
I actually got started in chemistry because my dad was a chemist, and he was the co-developer of Saran wrap, which everybody uses, which is ultimately one of those things that I'm trying to eliminate or get, tell people to stay away from. But he advanced into one of the co-creators of PVC plastics too. And unfortunately, I think that there was some foul play at hand or whatever, but he ended up dying real rapidly of cancer. And I found out years later that he was about to publish an article that plastics are cancer-causing agents and phthalates and everything. So at least I found out later on that he actually did know that, which made me feel a little bit better. But getting into how am where I am right now is I did have a little bit of a background in chemistry and biochemistry, except it was the book way of doing things. And I was always taught, listen to your teachers, even though I never wanted to listen to them in school. I was I was the one that was sent to the psychiatrist's office and told I would never amount to anything, and nobody could really understand me. And I was, having these visions and all this other stuff that was going on. And I really wanted to go to medical school and be a heart surgeon is what my dream was. And right before I was going to go into medical school, I met a guy, just happenstance, and we started, talking about medicine and stuff like that. Because I had previously taken all the prerequisite courses, all the chemistry and organic chemistry and stuff like that. And it was literally ingrained into our head that pharmaceuticals were the way to go. And anything outside of pharmaceuticals was witchcraft, charlatans. None of it ever worked. And you believe it if someone tells you enough times that that's the way it is. Yeah. And so he was actually treating cancer naturally, and he was involved in some natural cancer research. And so he told me, go pick any pharmaceutical if you believe in them so much and break it down. You have a background in biochemistry, and tell me, how that's actually going to do some good to the body. And I was like, well, we wouldn't have all the pharmaceuticals out there if they weren't good. We have the best scientists in the world doing them. So it took me like 2 hours in the library and looking up and breaking down the constituents and the chemicals that are in the pharmaceuticals, and then cross-referencing, which they never tell you, of course, how to do, because it's very easy to figure out. And I was just in shock, basically. And this is covering up something. This is actually damaging something. This is blocking an enzymatic reaction or blocking the natural process of some of these organs. And right then I knew, just like the blinders came off, and I was like, oh my gosh, has everything I've ever been taught false? I had to think that way at that point forward, because here I was thinking that this was all good, and I realized that it wasn't. And then I went back to him and told him to teach me everything he knows, and just dove into his spiritual healing, all different types of herbal healing, any type of energetic healing, learning about the earth, learning about myself, learning about spirituality, learning about emotions, all the things that are connected when you look at healing. And then he taught me everything. At that point in time, I really wanted to focus on cancer, and because he was focusing on cancer, and really, if you can get rid of cancer, everything else is easy. And so we started doing cancer research and degenerative disease research, and looking for the root cause of cancer and looking for the root cause of degenerative disease. And we found that the root cause of all disease is just basically too many toxins and chemicals coming in through the food and the water and the air and the, everything else. It's suppressing the body's self-healing mechanism. So our main goal was to reactivate or teach somebody how to reactivate their own body's self-healing mechanism. And so we opened up a cancer and degenerative disease clinic in 1998 here in Houston. And we were extremely successful. Most of our patients were cancer patients. And what we would do that was different than any of the other doctors, natural doctors out there, we were using ozone and different types of IVs and hyperthermia and all kinds of, technologies, blue shark stem cell. But one thing we were doing different is we were detoxifying them. And what we were doing was we were cleansing their intestines first. We were doing multiple liver and gallbladder cleanses, parasite cleanses, kidney cleanse, chemical and heavy metal cleanse, and preparing their body. Everybody we would talk to that came to see us would come in with bags full of supplements. And then we would say, well, what did the doctors do to clean you out first before you started taking all those supplements? And they said nothing. So we really took 2 steps back instead of 2 steps forward. We got to the point where we were so successful with cancer. We had the royal family flying in from London sometimes. We had, high-end people coming in. But we made the mistake of publishing some of our results online, and within about 8 weeks, we were raided by the FDA. We were shut down. All of our files were taken. I had death threats. I was told, don't ever do this again. You know, it was a shock because why wouldn't that be mainstream news? You know, that, you know, you're getting 70% success rates with cancer and every degenerative disease, while the pharmaceutical companies and chemotherapy and radiation are only 4% successful. And then it usually comes back after the 5th year anyway.
Yep.
So that was kind of a shock. And then I really realized the conspiracy behind the money making and keeping people ill and keeping people sick forever and never addressing the root cause of why people are sick to begin with. So that's what led me into developing products, because a lot of the products we were using, it was really hard to find good products without any fillers and excipients and GMO stuff in there. So I started really focusing on teaching people how to cleanse themselves. And the first book I wrote was Health Begins in the Colon, because when we looked at the root cause of all disease, we realized that if someone's taking in 1 million disease-causing toxins on a daily basis, but they're only able to eliminate 500,000 disease-causing toxins on a daily basis, that those are going to accumulate wherever and cause symptoms and disease. But we tracked it back and found that 98% of all of those chemical toxins that are coming into the body that cause disease end up coming in through the intestines. So that's why we developed the first product, which was an oxygen intestinal cleanser, so people can keep their intestines clean on a regular basis. And that's why we focus so much on teaching people how to address the root cause of disease and how to reactivate their body's own self-healing mechanism.
So how does the oxygen supplement work exactly?
Well, actually, when we realized that people in eating the standard American diet and people exposed to all the chemicals and toxins, they really need to keep their intestines clean 2 to 3 times a week, because otherwise you're going to have the proteins turning putrefactic, the carbohydrates fermenting, and the fats turning rancid. And the average person has 2 to 3 bowel movements a week. And people always say, well, I have bowel movements every day because I drink coffee, but then we take them off of coffee and they go 4 days without a bowel movement. Yeah. So really everybody's constipated and people aren't drinking enough water. So we had to find a safe way to clean the intestines on a regular basis. And we looked at cascara, psyllium, senna, all of the different herbs, but then we found that those cannot be used on a regular basis because they can cause permanent damage to the intestinal lining. So it ends up that we wanted to use oxygen. I mean, oxygen is a universal healing agent, but we wanted to use a reactive oxygen species, something that could neutralize the toxins, because most toxins are positively charged. But we had to literally invent something that we could stabilize O1 molecules onto a magnesium compound. And Nikola Tesla and Eugene Bloss in 1898 found a way to do that. And so we uncovered some of this, and it took us 7 years to develop a stabilized oxygen product that is stabilized reactive oxygen species. It's more of like a magnesium superoxide that you take, and it slowly releases the oxygen into your intestines and cleans and neutralizes all the toxins in there. And so you do it at night and you wake up in the morning and everything just gets flushed out. It turns that solid matter to a liquid or a gas through oxidation reduction. And it's healthy for you because you get the extra oxygen coming into your system too. And it can be used without any damage. As a matter of fact, it actually helps heal the intestinal lining.
That sounds amazing. Because is it similar to ozone? Does it react in a similar
way? It is
way?
similar to ozone. Ozone was O3, but this would be O1. So it's both are the same thing. It's a reactive oxygen species. O2 is stable by itself because that's what we breathe. O1 and O3, O4, O5, anything above O3 is going to be a reactive oxygen species. So it's going to find something instantaneously, to bond to or to neutralize. And that's why ozone therapy is so effective, hydrogen peroxide therapy, all of that is so effective in the body because we're really oxygen deficient due to the fact that we've gone from 29% oxygen in the air down to 6% oxygen in some places. And oxygen is, really what we need to survive and what we need to cleanse our body with, except we just don't have enough of it left.
Yeah. I'm a big on oxygen therapy as well. I think it's so important. I like to use the ozone toothpaste and whatnot. At least clean my mouth out.
Right. I mean, we produce an ozonated olive oil paste too that people brush their teeth with, and that's amazing. Just a little tip, something that people can use. A lot of people go in and for the teeth whitening places, and they go in and they sit in that chair with that UV light for 45 minutes. There's a trick that you can whiten your teeth whiter than if you were to go in and pay $199 for that treatment. And if you just take a little ozonated olive oil and you mix a capsule of activated charcoal in there, and you use one of those Sonicare toothbrushes, and you just brush your teeth with it for about a minute, and then rinse your mouth out, your teeth will be shiny bright.
Wow, I'll have to do that. I have both of those products. I'll have to do that. So
yeah, it's amazing.
Let's talk a little bit about parasites. Parasites are a big problem. A lot of people have parasites today. Can you talk a little bit about the prevalence of parasite infection in people?
Great subject, because not too many people talk about it, and parasites are one of the things that we found when we had our cancer clinic and degenerative disease clinic, that every single person that came through the door had an overgrowth of parasites. And most people just associate parasites with worms, but parasite is really anything that lives off of a host mechanism. Now, that's the definition, which means viruses, bacteria, candida, fungus. We have mycoplasms, protozoa, worms. There's not one person on the planet right now that doesn't have, to a certain degree, a certain amount of parasites. I mean, the World Health Organization has come out and said that people are infested with parasites. I've always said from a long time ago that we have a worldwide epidemic with parasites. So the prevalence of parasites are everywhere, and everybody should be concerned. Hulda Clark, in her cancer research, associated the liver fluke and associated parasites with every disease. Royal Raymond Rife, who was an innovator that came up with the Rife microscope and also came up with the Rife machine, which would send out different types of frequencies to counteract and neutralize different diseases, looked at different diseases under the microscope and associated every disease with some sort of parasite. So it's one of the most important things. They're everywhere in our environment, in the home, in the air, in the food, in the water. They've existed for millions and millions of years, and every living substance, plants, animals, humans, all have parasites living in their body.
Yeah.
So it's a big, huge deal. And I've been trying to get, I actually developed a parasite product years ago when we had our cancer clinic because I wanted to put together a lot of different things, a broad spectrum parasite product. And our products have no toxic fillers, excipients. They're all vegan friendly, GMO free, organic ingredients if we can find them. That's not to say, you can't get plenty of parasite products out there, but what I recommend is everybody does a parasite cleanse at least once a year. I mean, it's one of those problems that can mimic any single symptom of any single disease too. And what we found, even when we went through juicing regimens with people, we had them on raw food, we had all different types of hardcore supplements that they were taking. If you don't do a parasite cleanse and cleanse the body of parasites, they can still live, unless you use specific herbs and everything, with a raw vegan or with whatever. I mean, no matter how healthy you are, it doesn't matter. If you don't kill the parasites, they're still going to live in your system. And what we found was, even though we were trying to alkalize people's bodies with raw foods and, you know, everything else, a lot of times people that had a certain level of parasites in their system, the parasites secrete isopropyl alcohol. They secrete formalin, formaldehyde, all different types of acid-based compounds when they go to the bathroom in your system. So no matter what you're doing, if you don't take care of the parasites, it's going to be hard for your body to regenerate, and it's going to be hard for your body's self-healing mechanism to be activated so it can take care of whatever you need to take care of.
Do you still have the Parasite product available on your website?
I do. As a matter of fact, I just redid it with, because I constantly redo the products when we have better access to, let's say, freeze-dried green walnut hulls, which are stronger. And later on, I'll go over some of the most effective herbs that we've found in Parasite products, but I do have it available. The one on the site right now is a liquid formula, but the one that we have in stock that we're going to be putting up there in the next couple of days went back to a capsule formula. And one of the reasons we did that is, number one, we were able to get some more organic herbs. We were able to add an enzyme blend in there that helps chew away at the membranes of the parasites. And number three, we wanted to put higher levels of diatomaceous earth in there, because diatomaceous earth is one of the best things that we found, especially for worms in the intestinal tract, to make sure everything's clean and functioning good, and that you can cleanse everything out. So we combine diatomaceous earth, high-level strength enzymes with like 4 or 5 different herbs that we can kill or neutralize the parasites with.
So what are some of the signs that people have a parasite? I think you said that they mimic certain diseases and health conditions. Are there any specific signs that people can look for to note that they have a parasite?
Usually you're going to start feeling fatigued. You're going to start being tired. You could have abdominal pain, bowel problems, bloating, gas. You can have bouts of diarrhea or constipation. When we were studying the symptoms of parasites, yes. I mean, every single symptom that a person would have with heart disease, fibromyalgia, diabetes, cancer, I mean, you name it, you can also, that's why it's so hard to really, first of all, no doctors do testing for parasites, but it's really hard to determine, do you really have that disease that your doctor says you have? Or do you really just have toxicity? And what we found out is that you never have the disease that the doctor, like all the thousands of diseases that are in the Merck manual and everything, except for like Down syndrome and stuff that's, that's genetic. I mean, any acquired condition or degenerative condition, anything is all caused by either too many toxins coming in your body or some form of parasites, which cause mental illness, which cause stress, which cause everything else. Skin conditions, I mean, dry skin, psoriasis, eczema, usually associated with fungus, different types of parasites, all other toxins as well. Weight loss or weight gain, headaches, blurred vision, depression, pretty much you name it, and you can assure yourself that you might have parasites. And some people have a small amount of parasites in their body. Some people have a medium amount of parasites in their body. Some people have a large amount of parasites in the body. You might actually see, in a severe case, one time we had someone come in where you could literally see the worms crawling underneath their skin. They had so many of them in their body. Wow. Sometimes it gets to the point where people have so many worms in their intestinal tract that it causes complete blockage, and they have to actually go in and do surgery and take out these big lumps of worms.
Yeah. Yeah, I actually had a client that she started doing coffee enemas on my suggestion. She had clumps of worms coming out of her. Just huge clumps.
Oh,
because of coffee enema. Are you into coffee enemas? Are you a fan
You
of
know,
that?
I used to love doing coffee enemas, and I am a fan of coffee enemas. It's one of the things that we used to use in our cancer clinic. So I do recommend coffee enemas, but I also recommend that, you know, people also do other things. I mean, it's one piece of the puzzle of the full-blown approach, the full body approach of addressing what goes into the body and also what the body is exposed to in their external environment. So it's really the internal environment, cleaning the internal environment, and then cleaning the external environment. For the coffee enemas, of course, you know, I recommend using organic coffee and also using like a distilled water for that. But, you know, coffee enemas have been around for a long time. You can even add silver into there, you know, if you want colloidal silver, or you can add some additional things in there to kind of soup it up.
That's a good idea.
So, yeah, I definitely do promote coffee enemas.
And do you think that they help you to lose probiotics? A lot of people are fearful that you lose probiotics, and I try to tell them, no, they're not going all the way up your colon. They're only going in a small amount of your colon, maybe the first third. So you're not going to be devastating your probiotic population. What do you think?
That's a good point. I don't really think so. I think there's more factors that damage your probiotics, like alcohol, you know, excessive alcohol, aluminum, some of the pesticides in food, some of the phthalates, some of the plastics, some of the the Bt toxin in genetically modified foods. I think it's more the more probiotics get destroyed through you know, people drinking diet sodas, regular sodas, just an imbalance when the normal intestinal probiotic system gets imbalanced, and then they end up getting too much yeast in there, or it gets too acidic in the bowel. And, you know, 80% of your immune system is in the bowel. The intestines are the largest endocrine organ. I mean, it's actually an endocrine gland, and you have 30 to 35 feet. When you're talking about doing a coffee enema, you're really just talking about the colon, but really the 25 feet of the intestinal tract, the small intestine, is really important because that's really where the food is coming down, and that's the first exposure point to all those chemicals and toxins and everything else. And that's really where you need to break things down and where a lot of the damage occurs and the inflammation occurs. And you know, to this day, it still baffles me why the medical community hasn't recognized the importance of the appendix. You know, that was one of the things we were looking at when we were studying the intestines and studying the bowel is what's going on with the appendix. And we actually had to find research from Russia, like old research from Russia and Germany, and we had to have it translated because we found out how important the appendix really is, that the appendix, about the size of your pinky finger, is really the brain in your body. If you look at a computer and you have a microchip that runs everything, the appendix is really our microchip computer, because the research that was done in Russia and over in Germany, they found that the appendix actually controls the neurological, the lymphatic, the endocrine, everything. And
Wow.
it's common sense. Why wouldn't your brain or the microcomputer system be located in the intestines? It's right there at the juncture of the small and the large intestine when everything's broken down. Okay, how is your brain going to read what you're putting in your body? It's not, because it's not in direct contact with it. So the appendix actually reads every single thing through energy that you have in your body, and it prepares and sends messages to the brain, the lymphatic system, the neurological system, the all the different systems as to what you're putting in your body, and it prepares those systems to produce enzymes or produce whatever needs to be produced so you can utilize those things effectively.
Yeah, I knew that just couldn't be good to remove a part of our body. I mean, certainly if you have an emergency situation, that might be life-saving. But I think for many people, it's so important.
That's why it's so important to protect your intestines, because the intestines are really the most important gland, if you want to say, the endocrine system, and to keep everything from being absorbed into the bloodstream. And then the second most important organ in my research would be the liver, because the liver is just so overburdened. And again, talking about parasites, the liver fluke. I mean, the liver gets so congested, it'd be like an oil filter that's packed full with black sludge, and you can't even push oil through it anymore hardly. And that, I tell people that have high blood pressure, it's not you don't have high blood pressure. You have a congested liver, because whenever the heart's trying to push blood through the liver passageways and it's so congested, the heart has to beat stronger and faster to try to push it through. It's just like if you have a clumped up oil filter and you're trying to push oil through it, it won't go through. So you have to have a stronger pump and a pump that beats faster. So we didn't realize how important the liver was, because we were just doing one liver cleanse with everybody and they were still, showing signs, until people started doing multiple liver cleanses. And we had a guy that was sent home to die with 4-stage cancer. This was years ago. He was only given 2 weeks to live. And he ordered like 2 or 3 liver cleanses. And he did the first one and he felt a little bit better. Then he did the second one. Well, he didn't die. That was the second week, because it takes 5 days. So he was like, that's strange. I didn't die. What's going on? I might as well just do another liver cleanse. So he did another one. He just kept doing it and doing it. He just thought, maybe I'm not going to die. Maybe I'm not going to die. On the 26th liver cleanse, 26 weeks later, he was feeling so good, he went back to his doctor, and his doctor did an evaluation on him, and all of his cancer was completely gone.
Wow.
So at that point, we were thinking maybe one liver cleanse is just not enough. And what we found out is we were just barely scratching the surface with one liver cleanse. I mean, that's how congested, because when we found out that all these toxins are coming in, they're going in, they're getting absorbed into the bloodstream through leaky gut syndrome, then they're going to the liver because they have to be processed and broken down. Well, the liver can only handle so much in this day and age with all the chemicals that it's exposed to. And so we found and the thing is, normal blood work at a physician's office will not reveal any of this.
Yeah.
That we found that people have liver stones, people have liver flukes, which is a major cause of cancer and degenerative disease, which is a parasite. And a lot of parasites love bad stuff. That's why you get cravings for sweets and sugar and carbohydrates. Like everything that's bad for you, a parasite loves and thrives on. So the liver, all these high fructose corn syrup and all this garbage that's coming in that the liver's having to process, it just can't keep up with the demand. It'd be like the treadmill going 20 miles an hour, and you're only able to run 5 miles an hour, and you just can't. So the liver just gets congested and clogged up, and we're seeing that even in children these days. I mean, look at obesity in children and parasitic infection in children. I had a mom come in the other day brought her son in that's been to like 20 different doctors for the last year, and unfortunately had been put on severely strong antiparasitics. Nothing had helped, and a lot of doctors just prescribe antibiotics, which, for everything, even viral infections.
Yeah.
This 5-year-old kid was severely anemic because the hookworms and everything, they dig in, they suck your blood, and whenever they suck your blood, you become iron deficient, you become anemic, you turn white and pale in your face, you have cold, you feel cold, which is another symptom of some type of parasitic infections that are actually eating taking your blood. And they were like coming out. They were just coming out of him every time he went to the bathroom. So within a week of being on a good program, that those were already taken care of. But the thing with parasites, they have about a 6-week cycle, the majority of them. So it's not like you can just take a couple pills for one day and forget about it, because they can lay millions and millions and millions of eggs in your body every single day. Like 100 million sometimes they can lay inside your beds. Wow. I mean, inside your body. And if you come in contact, if you have any pets, if you eat sushi, for sure you're going to have parasites in your system. So that's why I recommend everybody does a parasite cleanse every single year, if not 2 times a year. It's not hard to do. All you're doing is taking some capsules every single.
What tests do you like to use for parasites? When I see clients, I just assume that everybody has parasites. If you have any kind of health condition, you probably have parasites. So, but what do you do any testing? What tests do you like to do?
I don't do test. Well, I'll ask the patient. First of all, I don't even think you need to do testing. I think it's an unnecessary expense, and I'll just say, look, you have symptoms, you have parasites. I put every single person on a 9-step cleanse. I mean, I do the same thing for every single person. It's been tried, tested with hundreds of thousands of people. And, we've got over 3,000 documented cases of every single disease that you can imagine that's gone just after cleansing the body. And that's the only thing they did. So I know how powerful cleansing is, and it's really in the simplicity of things. I mean, the earth cleanses itself, the animals cleanse themselves naturally. I mean, it's just the natural order of things. And I'm talking cleansing the body and then also cleansing their external environment. You can't clean your body and then go eat McDonald's and stuff every day still too. But the testing, I would use a dark field microscopy. You can use the tape method to look for pinworms. Just put some tape around the anal cavity and then look at it under the microscope. That's a very easy, cost-effective way to look for pinworms. Usually the medical doctors don't know how to do testing for parasites, but a lot of chiropractors actually do environmental toxin testing as well as parasite testing. And usually what they'll do is do it through a stool sample, or they'll do it through blood work. If for some reason, I usually just let the individual know, look, I'm going to put you on a parasite cleanse anyway for 6 weeks. If you want to see what you have, we can do any of those tests. It might be $500 to do them all. If not, we can just put you on a cleanse. If you want to see before and after, that's fine. If you want to spend the money, we can do that. If not, it doesn't really matter. You're still going to be doing the same thing to get rid of the parasites. And I'll show them a couple videos and I'll explain. And it's, like what you do, it's about education. It's about teaching people about the things that can alter their health and give them the symptoms and then give them solutions to the situations. So if they want testing, I'll do it. If not, we'll just go ahead and put them on a parasite cleanse program. As a matter of fact, the FDA came in and told me that I'm not even allowed to use the word parasite anymore. So I had to change. I had a whole site about parasites and how to help yourself and get rid of them. They made me take all of those down, and they made me change the word parasite to harmful organism. So it just goes to show you that, they know, and the pharmaceutical companies know that, and the psychiatric, all the psychotropic drugs. I really think that a lot of the mental illnesses are one of the contributing factors is an overgrowth of parasites in the body. And that's been proven that it can cause depression, anxiety, bouts of mental illness, whether it's suicidal thoughts or, you name it. The DSM, the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual, has over 500 mental illnesses now. So any one of those things can be linked to parasites now because of the toxic compounds. As a matter of fact, 1/3 of the average person's fecal matter is fecal matter from the parasites within their body.
Wow. Yes. That's disgusting.
Yeah, I know it is.
I am going to be doing a parasite cleanse very soon. I'm actually doing a liver flush right now with malic acid, doing a week of malic acid and doing some flushes. Because it's very important. It's very important to constantly flush your body out and do parasite cleanses. Is there a certain order in which you do things where you fix the gut first and then this and then that?
There is, and that was a lot of trial and error, and we found that always the gut needs to be first because everything's going to be pushed out through it, so you have to have a clean gut. Second thing that we do is we do liver and gallbladder cleansing. And because, the liver it needs to get its phase 1 and phase 2 detoxification system up and running again. You need to push out all those stones, all that fatty, stuff that's been stored in the liver. Let the liver push out all the chemicals and toxins that it's been storing. Once the liver and gallbladder are clean, then we move on to, not all the cases, but some cases we'll move on to a kidney cleanse. Just because we want the kidneys functioning good before the last step, which is going to be a chemical and heavy metal cleanse. But after you can go straight from a liver cleanse right into the parasite cleanse after that. Or if you're going to do a kidney cleanse, we would do the kidney cleanse and then go into the parasite cleanse. We usually would keep them like at least 2 weeks on the parasite cleanse, and then we can go ahead and start the chemical and heavy metal cleanse. So all in all, to do everything, going from an intestinal, 3 liver and gallbladder cleanses, kidney cleanse, parasite cleanse, and chemical and heavy metal cleanse, usually you can do that in about a 90-day period.
Okay. And so what are some of the supplements that you use to help to eradicate parasites?
Well, actually, one thing that we've noticed that is a parasite, but it's not really talked about too much as a parasite that we've seen in practically like every person is Candida and different fungus. There's like a fungus among us. Now we have Morgellons disease out there where these strange fibers are growing out of people. We have all these man-made viruses and influenza type bird flu, swine flu type viruses that are affecting people, bacteria. So now it's kind of like a multifaceted approach. You almost have to have, use some antifungal agents as well as some antibacterial agents, as well as some antiviral agents, and then use some stuff for worms too. For the majority of stuff out there, as far as the traditional parasite or worms, we use. I love diatomaceous earth. I mean, for cleansing the intestinal tract, because the diatomaceous earth will slice tiny holes in the worms' bodies, and they'll bleed to death, or their fluids will come out. So it's a real good way to eliminate those, and that's been used for ages in animals, and it's also really good to use for your pets as well. Wormwood obviously is really good herb to use. Worm seed, actually, which is epizote, and that's another good herb to use that we use. We use cassia bark. We use clove bud. And what I love to use is black walnut, which is a broad spectrum. Not only is it great for many types of worms, but it's also good across the board for any type of disease, immune system support, viruses, bacteria, stuff like that. Garlic, just a plain garlic extract. Barberry, golden seal would be another one. Oregon grape, anise. And then for anise is also really good for Candida. What I've found that works the best, really, though, those are mostly for worms and some of the other things. But I also incorporate silver, like a powerful HVAC produced nano silver, which is a broad spectrum antimicrobial for some of the smaller parasites like protozoa. Some of the smaller viruses, bacteria, stuff like that. One thing that works really good is oregano oil. I've used that for years, which is I use in my oregano oil, I activate it with a 250,000 heat units of cayenne pepper. So if you add some cayenne into your oregano oil, it works a lot more effectively. And oregano oil is for people that get the flu, or people that want to go get on antibiotics. Oregano is one of those substances that you really need to have the right amount in your system. Let's say an antibiotic, you need to take 500 milligrams of this antibiotic 3 times a day. Well, the reason it's 500 milligrams is because if they gave you 250 milligrams 3 times a day, it wouldn't work. there's a certain threshold with herbs too. You can take two less and it won't give you the therapeutic benefits, or you can take the right amount and it will. Oregano is one of those things that we've tested over the last 10 years. And if you take on the oregano oil, if you take about 3 drops, would be good for maintenance. But if you're sick or you have some sort of infection, it really needs to be 6 to 9 drops 3 times a day, with food, of course, to reach those therapeutic benefits. So for candida and fungus, the one thing that works really good, oregano oil, but also there's a probiotic out there that's called Lateroflora. It's owned by a company, the patent actually is owned by a company in California, O'Donnell Formulas. And it is a probiotic actually that specifically attacks candida. And we've used that by itself to totally eradicate even systemic candida in the system. And it's amazing what happens to your body when you completely get rid of all the parasites in there. Because not only are you getting rid of the worms, but you're getting rid of all the candida and the fungus. And that's why so many people have cravings for sugar all the time. I mean, if you have cravings for sugar and carbohydrates, we started asking mothers a while back, a couple years ago, about their children. Does your child have a craving for sugar? Does your child have a craving for bread? And like 98% of the answers were yes. They have to have their bread, and they're constantly asking me for some sugar. Well, that's because the children they have candida excess in their body, and the diet, the standard diet for children, and what children are fed in public schools is horrific with all the gluten and all the genetically modified stuff. And these poor children's immune systems aren't fully developed until they're 12 or so. So they're, their whole body and their neurological system and the way they think is being altered. And then, of course, they're being put on psychotropic drugs, too, at the same time. So,
yeah. Well, Dr. Group, do you have any more to add about how we can eradicate parasites from our body?
Well, yes. I mean, just, if you have pets, you want to make sure that you clean your pet of parasites. You can use the same things. I mean, you can just empty out the capsules, and that's what I do I have a dog. I just empty a capsule of the Paratrex in their food maybe once a week. And I've never had my dog at the vet, had heartworms. We have people that use ours or other parasite formulas out there. It doesn't matter, for horses, cows. People use diatomaceous earth for that. So look around your environment, number one, and look at any sources of that you might be taking parasites into your body. And that's going to be anytime you touch your pet, make sure you wash your hands really good. Also, you want to look at sushi. I mean, there's 10,000. They evaluated pieces of sushi from restaurants all over, and they found an average of 10,000 parasite larvae per inch of sushi.
Wow. So I was laughing because I was just going to ask you about sushi. What about sushi? Because I love sushi.
Well, the thing is, if you eat sushi, there's no doubt you will have parasites in your system. I mean, there's no way around it. Yeah. And the air that we breathe, you can clean up the air in your house. I recommend people use the REMI unit. It's a company here in the United States. We tested, actually the Chinese government tested air. They put together a team of scientists and tested all of the air purification systems from all over the world, from all the companies, when the SARS was there. They only found a couple that actually killed the majority of things in the air, and one of them was from a company here in the United States called RGF. And they produce a air purification system that produces ionized hydroperoxides, which neutralize all of the parasites that are floating in the air that you breathe. So I recommend their units, which are called the REMI units, REME. So that's how you clean your air. a lot of parasites that people get are in the water. People drink tap water, which not only contains parasites, but it contains all types of harmful chemicals and toxins and everything else. So I would say make sure you're drinking clean water. And that would mean, get a good water purification system under your sink, or, just drink purified water or drink distilled water. I recommend anybody drinking distilled water to put a little bit of organic apple cider vinegar in there, because the organic apple cider vinegar is going to re-energize the distilled water. It's going to put the minerals and the vitamins and the enzymes and the probiotics and everything back in it. Kombucha tea is also really good to help heal the bowel, as well as apple cider vinegar is. So that you've taken care of your air and your water. Stop drinking all the harmful beverages out there that are causing malfunction in your intestinal lining. And then food. You switch to an organic, non-GMO, good organic diet. I mean, you're still going to get parasites, but you're lessening the load of the toxins, so your body's not having to deal with all the pesticides and all the insecticide residue and all the chemicals and all the other stuff, and it can focus more on balancing its own system. And then just cleaning up your house area, where you live, your bed, making sure there's not mold and dust mites and everything around your living environment, and doing a parasite cleanse, once or twice a year. And that's pretty much about it. Just being aware and listening to your body, listening to the symptoms your body gives you, because your body will always give you some sign or symptom that something is wrong. When your body gives you a headache, it's not, oh my gosh, I have a headache, I better run to the doctor for some pain medication. Your body's trying to say, hey, excuse me, something you did probably within the last 8 hours or so is causing your headache. Please look at what you did. What were you exposed to? What chemicals you touched? What did you eat? What did you drink? And let's figure out what this situation is so you can eliminate it from the exposure of your system.
Yeah, you mentioned kombucha tea. There's different camps out there. Some people think that kombucha will promote wild yeasts in your body, but it contains S. boulardii, which we know is a yeast that eats other yeast. What are your thoughts on kombucha, and if it's good for you or not?
Well, I started growing kombucha probably like 20 years ago. And I think it's good for you. If you just look at the components in it, it's, as long as you don't let it ferment to where it's, got too much alcohol in it, I think it's healthy for you, just because it's a natural product. And I think that even doing a little bit of fermentation is really good, because when you're fermenting, that's actually a natural process that takes place in nature all the time. And you're creating a culture of good bacteria that can have positive effects on your whole system. So I like kombucha. I drink water and apple cider vinegar pretty much all day long. And really another good point is hydration. I mean, we are a dehydrated society, and it's really important for people to recognize and realize that they need to drink more water on a regular basis, especially purified water.
Yeah, I agree with you. Absolutely. So why don't you tell us about your book, The Green Body Cleanse? I think this is a book that can help a lot of people, and can you tell the listeners a little bit more about it?
Yeah, so basically after about 15 years of research, what we did was we figured that we need to put together the solution for people. And so people have an easy, not written medically and all these hard terms that people would have to understand or research, but in a fun way, give people the cause of all disease and what they can do to not only prevent disease, but also to eradicate disease. And really what the whole book is based on is it talks about why we all have symptoms, where all the toxins are coming from, why these toxins are getting into the body, and it breaks it down on how all these toxins and chemicals and things that we're exposed to internally and externally, how it initiates the disease process, how it initiates the symptom process, and how you can take the steps to change your own life. You don't have to do everything all at once, but it just breaks it down. For example, table salt, the dangers of table salt, what it does to your body, and then how you can just easily, the next time you go to the store, buy Celtic salt or Himalayan crystal salt, and how you can make these changes slowly in your home by cleaning up the oxygen and the water, and basically converting your body and your home from something that's toxic to something that's clean and green. So not only will you have a strong immune system and self-healing mechanism, but you'll also be happy, you'll live in a stress-free environment, and you'll prevent, the pains and all the symptoms that people suffer with every single day. I mean, it just amazes me that so many people suffer and can't live their life. They're not happy, they're not self-confident, they're going through emotional distress, and a lot of times we would ask people, what makes you happy, and they would just sit there and break down crying, or what do you do for fun, and they just couldn't answer those questions. And then we would say, when's the last time you were really happy in your life? And usually they couldn't even remember it. And it's amazing the transformations that can happen just in 90 days of taking care of your health and cleansing your body. Yeah. So that's really what the book is about, the Green Body Cleanse. It's just a new edition really from the original book, which is Health Begins in Your Colon. And now it's just it's a transformational educational resource that people can use, that they can look at identify. It really helps you identify all the things that you didn't know about, how to read labels, how to identify everything that might be toxic in your kitchen, how to identify everything that might be toxic in the food that you're eating, how to identify everything that might be toxic in what you're drinking every single day, how to identify everything that might be toxic in the air that you're breathing or in your living environment. And then it's not like, okay, these are all the toxic things that are killing you and blah, blah, blah. This is how you identify it. And this is how you replace it with something that is non-toxic, organic. It's not, okay, you have to eliminate every single thing in your life and you can't do anything ever again. No, you're going to replace your artificial sweeteners with natural, sweeteners like stevia or something. You're going to replace your fluorescent light bulbs in your house with full spectrum. You're going to put 3 plants in each room in your house to suck up toxins and increase more oxygen concentration. You're going to get rid of that memory foam mattress that's, you're breathing VOCs all night long, and you're going to replace it with a organic latex mattress. You're not going to have your electronics plugged in right next to you while you sleep with your cell phone on your chest all night long. Just solutions to some of the things you would never realize that are taking place, that people are doing all day long, every day.
Yeah. Well, Dr. Group, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. That was so educational. I learned a lot myself. And can you tell the listeners a little bit more about, where they can find you and your future plans and anything more that you want the listeners to know?
Well, thanks. Anybody can go to globalhealingcenter.com. We have a blog there that we try to post an article every single day. We have a wealth of information. I mean, you can search any condition, fluoride, you can search toxic metals. I mean, anything that you have that you want to learn about as far as vaccines are concerned, GMO foods, gluten, you name it, you can search for it and get a wealth of information. If you want to do any of our cleanses, you can also find information on all of our cleanses. What we also have is third-party review systems. So a lot of times people just want to see what happens, and they want to hear from other people about what goes on. And we have thousands of reviews. The reviews are 4.8 stars or above, which is just incredible in the nutraceutical industry to even get reviews that high. But you get to see and you get to hear other people's stories, which is very, very comforting because there's a lot of stuff out there online, and it's hard sometimes to find and choose between different things. So we have all that information, the book information online. We also have Facebook, Global Healing Center Facebook, where we post all kinds of inspirational things there. So that might be another thing that you'd like to sign up for. And that's pretty much it. I mean, we have an actual team of people here all day long that have been trained to sit and listen. They're not, our customer support team. You don't even have to buy anything from us. You can just call up and talk to anybody about your problem. They can steer you in the right direction, see what kind of nutraceuticals you're on, see if that's helping you. Just sometimes people just want an ear to listen to, and it's been proven that, that doctors that actually listen to patients, after about 30 or 45 minutes, the patient's immune system actually starts to become active again, because the average time spent in a physician's office now is less than 7 minutes. So, people just, part of the healing process is allowing people to talk about their problem and actually listening to them.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Group. I really appreciate coming on the show. I love your website. It's a resource I go to a lot myself. And I was very, very excited when you agreed to come on the podcast. So thank you for coming on.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. Have a wonderful day.
You too.
All right. Take care. Bye.
If you want to learn more about me and detoxification and how to heal your health conditions naturally, you can go to my website, live110.com. You can find out all about my natural healing and detox program called Mineral Power at mineralpower.com, and all about my online health program. It's only $49. It's called bodybiorehab.com. Go there and sign up for when it launches May 1st. And thank you so much for listening to the Live to 110 podcast. Well, why don't you tell the listeners a little bit about your background and why you became a voice for the low carb movement?
Okay. So I became a dietitian in my, I actually went back to school to be a dietitian in my mid-30s. I was a court reporter before that, and I had a strong interest in wellness and nutrition and really wanted to help people. So, and I thought I was following really an ideal diet. I was a pescatarian, kind of higher carb, but very low fat, lots of whole grains. And I thought this was the way that everyone should eat to manage whatever diseases they had. So I was trained to prescribe that type of diet. And I started doing so when I worked at a large veterans hospital in diabetes management and weight management. And I really thought that I had the ideal diet, and I felt good overall, except that I would get hungry an hour or two after eating. I had to snack a lot, and if I went too long between meals, I would definitely get kind of cranky and tired and almost feeling, faint. But I thought this was normal. All the dietitians I knew snacked all the time, so I thought that was kind of a normal way to be. And I had no idea that anything might be wrong until I had lab work done for life insurance purposes in 2011, early 2011. And on the lab report that came back, my fructosamine value was flagged as high. And fructosamine is a measure of like a 1 week average of your blood sugar. It actually measures the amount of sugar that's glycated to albumin. And mine was flagged as high. My husband's was not. And because mine was flagged as high, they also did a hemoglobin A1C measurement. And my hemoglobin A1C was 5.6%, which is just 0.1% below where prediabetes diagnosis starts. So that was really concerning to me. And I thought, what's going on? It can't be my diet. I have the healthiest diet in the world. This is the diet that every person with diabetes should be following. So I started investigating what it could be, and my fasting blood sugar was normal. My fasting blood sugar was in the 80s. So it didn't look like I had pre-diabetes. It was actually going up a lot after meals. And I found this out by testing myself with a glucometer. I discovered that my blood sugar was regularly going above 160, and it really should never go above, maybe 120, 130, 140 at the max.
And I think that's what everybody should do. Everyone should be getting a glucometer and checking their blood sugar before and after meals.
I agree.
Because you never know. You don't know until you know.
Exactly. And it can go on for years without you knowing. And my fasting blood sugar wasn't any kind of trigger for a doctor to say, oh, it's high, let's test. So no one would have ever tested this. And even the life insurance, they're like, oh, well, the A1C was only 5.6. But for